Welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Amelia, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Please introduce yourself and the name of your nonprofit.
Happy to do that. I'm Amelia Thompson, and I run an organization called RenewToday Incorporated.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about what you have going on. But before that, we want to learn a little bit more about your story. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. I'm fairly new to Atlanta. I guess I can't say new anymore. I'm like 3.5 years in.
Okay.
But I began my career overseeing an initiative for the city of New York that focused on helping young people transition from incarceration, and that got me really interested in wanting to do something on the front end. And so instead of staying in reentry, I became a classroom teacher for a few years. But my academic journey began as a student at Vassar College, where I studied political science, and I minored in Africana studies and Mandarin. And so jump ahead a few years when I started becoming a teacher, I went into grad school through a program that was paid for as part of my teacher training. And so I studied at St. John's University. And I'll share later that I actually returned to grad school a few years later in work that was related to my nonprofit.
Okay, awesome. Now, Mandarin, what made you choose that language to study?
Yeah, it's a great question. At the time, I wanted to better order Chinese food in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I just thought it was really practical based on my community.
Yeah.
And I had an interest in travel, so I had the opportunity to finish the minor in China. And I thought I might do more work that would allow me to use it in a work context. That hasn't happened.
Yes.
Hasn't happened yet, but maybe it will. But that's why.
Okay. Now, what was your favorite thing to order?
The shame is that I can't remember how to order it in Mandarin at this moment. But at the time, I loved ordering like vegetable fried rice.
Okay.
And probably like some protein. It might have been like chicken or shrimp on the side.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So you were doing your studies, and then at the time, you said you were helping people who were recently incarcerated transition back in. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, that experience was sort of formative in terms of my professional career because I was in this position where I was able to think about how to help inform and guide and support systems level change. My role focused on helping steward our program model. At the time, this was a part of Mayor Michael Bloomberg's anti-poverty initiatives. So they were really interested in thinking about how to support local communities to become stronger and better positioned to help young people and adults as well transition from periods of incarceration and ultimately find employment. The neat thing about that initiative is that we were helping young people not just come home and find a job, but think about how they could become assets in their community. So we trained them on how to conduct community needs assessments. And in teams, they would create these, what they called community benefit projects. So as a team, as an example, a group of young people might survey their community and realize there are way too many homes in the community that are not weatherized. So as a team, they would propose to do and to conduct these to complete weatherization processes. And so they had to present those projects before a board of advisors that was comprised of local community members, local business owners, and elected officials. And so that was also a way to help those young people increase their social capital. And so I really enjoyed that work, but I also advocated for adding educational services into that model because that wasn't a part of its original design. And that's what launched me into this interest in education.
Okay. Now, as we were talking about that, I did some research, and I know you talked about education. You mentioned St. John's. I thought I also found Harvard on there as well. Did you take courses there, graduated from there? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yes. So after I started my nonprofit, I became really interested in what happens when girls start reaching puberty around the world and the challenges they face to continuing to matriculate and often drop out of school for a host of reasons. So that's what led me on the path to wanting to study international education policy. And so I completed that. That was my second master's degree at Harvard.
Okay, nice. Well, congratulations on that. Don't have a Harvard grad in here all the time, so definitely want to give you a big shout out for that. Now, as you were going up there, you were in New York, so you said you've been down here for 3.5 years. So when you were thinking about, what you had going on, when did a nonprofit start to formalize in your brain? When did that start to happen?
It started, I didn't know that it was going to become a nonprofit. I really just wanted to respond to a challenge that I was witnessing at the time. This is in about 11 years ago, when Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri. I was teaching at the time, and this was Mike Brown's killing, unfortunately, was a part of a spree of killings of Black people at the hands of law enforcement. And I knew our students, I was a middle school teacher, were witnessing that along with all of us, and weren't given tools to process those events well. And so I was thinking about how to help students not just process, but also feel like they were contributing to the conversation around police injustice and police brutality. And so I started to develop lesson plans for teachers to help their students process that moment. And so that became a part of an initiative that became We Write Life. And so our students would write letters to local elected officials. As an example, they might write a letter to a local congressman that might say something like, Dear Congressman Jones, my brother, Rashawn, loves to play basketball, loves to cook, and loves to laugh. I hope he lives. And that was the full letter. And it was a way to help students advocate for their own humanity, really, and to really have a voice in that space. So that was one of the examples of a lesson plan, but we created an entire curriculum and had the opportunity to train teachers in New York City and to work with other groups around that. But that's how that work started.
Okay, awesome. So the spark started, and that event of his death kind of got things going. Was there a specific event that happened that said, you know what, I've started this, but now I want to formulate it and make it a solid foundational thing? Was there an event that happened that made you burn the ship and go all in on the nonprofit?
Yeah, so that event, and then coupled with another initiative, it's sort of another project that I started to see momentum build around those two areas. And so it usually has to do with sort of the timing of things. But also when I was a teacher, instead of hosting a birthday party a number of years ago, I invited friends to bring over feminine hygiene products that we then used to create care packages for girls who were transitioning out of sex trafficking in New York City. And after that project, we created like 10 care packages, not a huge number at all. I started to wonder what happens when girls in other contexts, whether in the city or beyond, are also trying to meet their menstrual hygiene needs and don't have the resources to do so. And I learned that girls, unfortunately, sometimes engage in transactional sex, or just go without, or make do with products that they shouldn't be using for that purpose. And that's also how I learned that girls often drop out of school in countries around the world. It's one of the factors that contributes to school attendance just being not a thing. So it was the momentum that I started to see, and then I formalized our nonprofit, which is called RenewToday, as I mentioned, and we really focus on helping individuals and organizations and even schools and companies think about fostering cultures of equity and justice. And we do that by designing training and partnerships to help them do that.
Awesome. Yes, you led us right into it. That's exactly what I was going to ask next. What is it that you guys are doing? Now, for one of the initiatives, let's just say, are you still doing that for the young ladies right now? Tell us more about your nonprofit and how can we be of service in helping you to get your message out there?
Sure. So the justice work that I mentioned, we haven't focused on that in this season. We've really gone all in on our work around supporting equity around period poverty, fighting against period poverty, and supporting menstrual equity, both in the U.S. and around the world. So we've partnered with local businesses. We've had a longstanding partnership with a local gym that hosts a drive every year. and raises tons of products that we then give to organizations that help women transition out of homelessness and other sort of vulnerable contexts. That gym is local to New York.
Okay.
But we partner with groups here in Atlanta as well. I was just at Morehouse School of Medicine speaking with students about how they might fight and respond to period poverty. And I just returned from a trip from Kenya and Tanzania where we were partnering with the University of Cincinnati to lead training and programming related to this issue in a rural area in Tanzania.
Okay. Now, it seems as if you have roots from New York all the way down south. My question that I always ask all nonprofit owners, business owners, geographical target-wise, are you trying to provide this service all over the country, or is it just specific pockets? You know, Africa, New York, Atlanta. Tell us a little bit more about your geographical target so we can know how to help.
Yeah. So right now, although we focus largely here in Atlanta, because I'm here and in New York, we have partnered with groups around the country.
Okay.
We had a partnership with a national marketing company, and so really any organization or any company that is interested in hosting training, educating their staff about this topic, we're happy to partner with and to find ways of facilitating those sorts of opportunities. We also partner with universities if they have an interest in, or universities and schools, if they want to engage their students in volunteerism or service work related to this, which is what we did with the University of Cincinnati.
Awesome. Now, let's just say we have a company, some individuals that want to help you in your journey. What would an engagement or what would a course look like, an idea, if they were to say, okay, let's take this on? How would you teach, let's just say here at Burn the Ship, what would it look like if you taught us how to help you?
Sure. We usually start with a sort of informational session where we talk about what this concept, because a lot of people aren't familiar with the concept of period poverty. So we like to start by making sure that term is clear, and we provide an understanding of that, not just in terms of locally what that means, but also around the world. And so as an example, there's been studies that have been done that show that students in the U.S., I think 2 out of 3, if I remember correctly, have struggled to meet their menstrual hygiene needs, and that therefore is a cause of stress for them.
Okay.
And sometimes they might miss class or just be stressed while they're attending class, and that's just in the U.S. And so when we look globally, we see similar trends both in the UK as well as in countries like Uganda or Liberia, where often a lot of girls end up dropping out of school. And I should mention that period poverty isn't necessarily the reason they drop out, but it contributes to an environment that's not as safe for them to continue, or just often not supportive of girls attending school or continuing in school, especially if they have a brother who the family is more likely to encourage to go to school in some situations. So for that reason, we think about our work kind of globally.
Okay. Yeah, that is awareness to me. I guess I didn't think about that with me being a guy, how that could be an issue, either taking care of the situation, being embarrassed about the situation, and then avoiding all situations because of that. So if nothing else, you have brought awareness to me and my team now on that situation, because I guess as a guy, I haven't had to worry about that before.
Right.
Now, we have a pretty good idea of how you're helping people out there. How can others that are watching the show help you in your cause? What can they do?
I'd love partnerships. I'd love to host trainings around period poverty, and then also how teams might want to respond. And there are a host of examples or options for that kind of work, whether that includes wanting to go and do work sort of put boots on the ground, the way that we've done with the University of Cincinnati, because they have a long-standing partnership with an organization that runs in Tanzania, or if it's or wanting to fund work that happens. We've partnered with groups like at the UN, and then raised awareness with key stakeholders, and then also partnered to help this network of schools support the matriculation of girls in Western Uganda, as an example. So we have different ways of working with teams that have an interest in both learning and then also funding and supporting work that's happening around the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I am confident that over your time in school, time being a teacher, definitely working with your nonprofit and, your normal business, you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of best practices or business skills that have helped you to be successful. Do you mind sharing with the audience a couple of those best practices?
Sure. 3 come to mind.
Okay.
One, I've been told that I'm sort of naturally a good community builder. And I think that really the sort of origins of it, that stems from just caring about people. And so this isn't necessarily what's going to immediately drive revenue, but I think really demonstrating care about your clients, about your partners, I think that goes a long way in terms of sustaining partnerships or deals. The second that comes to mind is I think often when we think about partnerships or new partnerships, we think that we have to go and look in some far off place. But I found that the best partners are likely right around you. So I think it's about being sensitive to who's in your environment and who those people are connected to. Two quick examples are the partnership that we started with the University of Cincinnati began when I was in Rwanda for a work project for something totally separate from my nonprofit. And I happened to be taking a shuttle from the airport to the hotel with 2 physicians from the University of Cincinnati. They invited me to have dinner with them while we were all going to be together that week in Kigali. And when we returned back to the U.S., we stayed in touch, and one of them put me in touch with a colleague of hers who runs that organization, who started that organization when he was in med school many years ago. And so wouldn't have anticipated that a partnership would have come out of a shuttle ride, but I think it was just being sensitive to like who's around me. A second example of that is when I started to raise awareness about period poverty. I invited friends of mine who I knew were writers to what I called impact concerts. I thought it would be people would be interested more in listening to music and poetry than hearing about period poverty. So I invited friends who are musicians and poets to share their work, and then during breaks, I would talk about period poverty. I didn't know that one of my friends who's a writer worked at the UN, but that led to us convening a conversation at the UN in partnership with UNICEF and the ambassadors from 5 different countries. Could not have imagined that, couldn't have planned that. But again, I think sort of leveraging and maximizing the relationships that are around me, I think was how that happened. And the third thing, I think it's really being genuine. Just like these opportunities and even initiatives have come out of my own genuine curiosity about challenges that I've seen in the world, whether it's racial injustice or gender inequity. And so I think it's been that interest that has grown into the work that I now do.
Yeah, it's no telling how far a smile and a hello can take you, because that's what happened on that shuttle bus.
You're right.
You were just being a human and say, you know what, how are you doing today?
Right.
And that led to so many different opportunities for you. So that's a magnificent soft skill that not a lot of people talk about. Talk about marketing, networking, all those things. But being a nice, genuine human can take you a long way, and don't be afraid of, making partnerships. So I definitely appreciate you sharing those best practices that have helped you to be successful. And as we've gone through this conversation, we've talked a lot about your journey. We've talked about the nonprofit. You share with us some magnificent best practices, but now I want to talk about you a little bit. So let's just say that your normal business is coming along great. The nonprofit are getting the volunteers and the donations, and time and money is no issue at all. What is it that you would do with your time?
Wow, that's a great question. I love going to the beach. And now that I'm in Georgia, I don't have that opportunity very much since we're landlocked. So I'd love to consider like the top 5 beaches in the world and visit them. I had the opportunity to visit a beach when I was in South Africa many years ago, and so I'd go back to that one because I absolutely loved it. And then I would look to find like 4 other like best beaches in the world and visit.
Now, when you're at the beach, are you on your chair with the umbrella, or are you in the water?
I'm in the water up to my ankles because I haven't learned how to swim yet. But once that's on my list of things to do. And then I would be in the water. But I also love like lounging on the beach, even taking walks along the beach, along the shore.
Okay, nice, nice. Now, we definitely appreciate you sharing all of these things with us. Now, if the people that are watching today have questions about your journey, the nonprofit, or how you're helping businesses, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
The best way for people to reach us is through our email address, info@renewtoday.net.
Okay, okay. There you can follow up with them and go from there. The website is, what is the website in itself?
RenewToday.net.
RenewToday.net. So please go there and check her out and see how you can help her in her quest to help in all of these things, community, the young ladies, all of it, because I know you do a whole bunch of things when it comes to trying to get people back into a community mindset. So reach out to her, please. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. And we always honor our guests by giving you guys the last word. So, Amelia, if you don't mind, please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
I'll say nothing is impossible with God. God bless you. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.